Hi, I'm Jerry Sisser. I'm co-host of the Classic Movie Nights at Hancock Historical Museum. I'm here today with my co-host Joy Bennett with a little elbow bump. We are taping this on Friday, March 20th, which was supposed to be the premiere night for our 6th season of Classic Movie Nights. Unfortunately, we are victims of COVID-19 cancellations, just like so many other places. So as a change of pace and to let you know that we haven't forgotten about you, we thought that we would record our opening comments for our premiere movie and show them on our website, or what is it?
Facebook,
Facebook,
YouTube.
that's right. I'm not a Facebook user. And maybe give you a prompting to see the movie that we were going to show. Typically we open with a musical, and today was going to be no different. We were going to show the quintessential Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire movie, Top Hat. Obviously we can't show you the movie, but we can show you where to get it on the screen. Joy, tell us what they're looking for.
We will be providing you with a list of different places that you can rent it, Amazon Prime, YouTube, and so forth, so you'd be able to live stream it into your home.
Thank you. It turns out that Top Hat is really the perfect movie to be showing at this time. It's, the year is 1935, the United States of America is in the depths of the terrible Great Depression. People are depressed, concerned, worried, not sure what they're going to be doing. And they're flocking to the movies to escape their dreary reality. Top Hat was sheer escapism, from its extravagant Art Deco sets to its extraordinarily wealthy characters and costumes. Top Hat creates a world that can only exist for Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. The plotless plot is pointless to ponder and is just an excuse for music and dance. This was the 4th of 10 movies that Astaire and Rogers appeared in together. A couple of years earlier, Astaire and Rogers had low billing in a movie called Flying Down to Rio, but their dancing captured the imagination of the American public. So RKO immediately cast them into another movie titled The Gay Divorcee, which was a film version of a hit Broadway play. As important as casting was to their careers into this movie, it was also a time that an assemblage of the team that produced most of the Astaire-Rogers movies came together. This was led by director Mark Sandrich, who directed The Gay Divorcee as well as Top Hat and 3 other movies. He's also known for directing Holiday Inn and for directing So Proudly We Hail. Both were movies that we have shown in Classic Movie Night. Unfortunately, he was a workaholic and overworked himself to the point that in 1944, at the young age of 44, he had a drastic sudden heart attack while playing gin rummy with his wife and died. The other part of the team, production team, was scriptwriter Alan Scott, who was especially good at including comedy into his scripts. He worked closely with Sandrich in developing the scripts, though, because Sandrich had a background in engineering, and he was meticulous with details. The two of them would plan out how many minutes between comic lines, or how many minutes would have to go in the movie before they would have to introduce another musical number. So their combination had detailed plots in all of their script writing. Third person that was very important was the associate art director, Carol Clark, who designed the fantastical sets for all of these films. This was also the beginning of a stock group of actors for these movies, and Joy is here to tell you more about that.
Hello. First I want to talk about Eric Blore. He was in the most films with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, with 5, starting with Flying Down to Rio and finishing up with Shall We Dance. It was a very interesting story how he got into acting. He pretty much just started off as an insurance salesman from London. He took a trip to Australia and fell in love with acting in the theater and started acting in movies. And the rest, shall we say, is Hollywood history, because he landed a role in one of the Ginger Rogers Fred Astaire movies and essentially played the same character for the rest of his career. Our next person is Edward Everett Horton. He starred in 3 movies with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. He mostly played the best friend of Fred Astaire, who was generally a bumbling, idiotic man who added quite a bit of comic relief, although he was a very elegant, very intelligent man in real life. Our third person was Eric Rhodes. He only appeared in 2 of the movies, but he was, interestingly, always Italian, and his portrayal of the Italians offended Mussolini so much that this film and The Gay Divorcee were both banned in Italy because of it. And now it's Jerry.
Okay, I'm back on. Okay, so Fred Astaire. Everybody wanted to work with Fred Astaire. He was a perfectionist, though, and not an easy person to work with. He insisted on having control and not just input in all of his movies, and especially in his choreography. In the process, though, he changed the way movies showed dance and the way the audience would look at dance. Prior to Astaire, the standard for musical numbers on the screen was set by Busby Berkeley. Now, Berkeley's approach was to have these big, wide shots with geometric designs in them and big, lavish numbers with lots of people in it. And occasionally, then, he would cut in on close-ups, like close-ups of a face or dance steps, and then zoom out to the wide picture again. What Fred Astaire wanted was to create a situation whereby he would be like he would be on stage, and the audience could see all of his full body in motion. And that's the way he liked to present himself on the screen, in one take, whenever that would be possible. So you see long dance numbers when you're watching Fred Astaire on the screen. To help accomplish this, he was always given 6 weeks prep time on the set before the director would even be allowed on there. But this was not the time, in the case of the Ginger Rogers movies, that he could spend time with Ginger Rogers. Instead, he would do his choreography along with a good friend and co-choreographer, Hermes Pan, who went by the name Pan most of the time. Hermes Pan bore a striking resemblance to Astaire, to the point that even Astaire's daughter got them confused at one time. But the reason, and Ginger Rogers wasn't able to be with them during these practice sessions because she would be out working on other movies. She was an accomplished actress who wanted to build her resume in both comedy, drama, and musicals. So she was away during these 6-week or longer planning stages. Pan would work in partnership with Astaire and act the role of Ginger Rogers. So he would be there dancing Ginger's part along with Fred Astaire, which made for some very awkward moments when people might walk in on them. It worked, though, so that when Ginger was able to find the time and come back for rehearsals, Hermes Pan would work with her closely and teach her all the steps because they had all been set up beforehand. And it was to her credit that she was very skillful and a quick learner in this case. Ginger Rogers was an accomplished actress, and that's what made her such a great partner for Fred Astaire. She wasn't the best dancer that he ever danced with, but she was an accomplished actress, which, as Katharine Hepburn said, Fred Astaire gave Ginger Rogers class, and Ginger Rogers gave Fred Astaire sex, or in this case, sex appeal. And it worked, most of the time. There's some interesting stories on that, which Joy is going to tell you about.
Probably the most famous scene from this movie is the cheek-to-cheek number. And that is partly due to Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers dancing together, and partly due to Ginger Rogers' amazing dress. This dress was actually designed by Ginger Rogers in collaboration with Bernard Newman. She picked the color, which was this beautiful true blue. She said it had to be a Monet blue, even though the film was going to be shot in black and white, so you actually couldn't tell what color it was supposed to be. But she insisted on that. They paid an extra $1,500 to have the ostrich feathers extended so that they covered so much of the dress. And she just fell in love with it as soon as it was created. But in the first rehearsal of her dancing wearing this dress with Fred Astaire, he instantly hated it. The feathers weren't sewn on perfectly and some of them flew off. They went up his nose and in his eyes. It made for some awkward moments on the set. Astaire hated it. He insisted that she had to wear something else. The director agreed, and then Ginger Rogers and her mother said no. They pretty much stood up to everyone and said she was wearing this dress or she wasn't doing it. And interestingly enough, Hermes Pan and Fred Astaire had their own version of Cheek to Cheek that they used to sing to each other that went, "Feathers, I hate feathers, and I hate them so that I can hardly speak. And I never find the happiness I seek with those chicken feathers dancing cheek to cheek." So basically Fred Astaire always, and he was well known for hating this dress, but after the movie came out and people loved it so much, and part of it was due to this fabulous dress, afterwards Fred Astaire purchased a gold feather charm and sent it to Ginger Rogers saying, "Feathers, it worked." And so that was, I mean, that really makes the entire movie really is this very romantic dance with her wearing that dress. And side note, Sesame Street recreated it with Marie and Louise singing "Hola means hi, hello not goodbye," which I remember from when I was a child. And it wasn't until much later that I saw this movie that I put the two together. So, like, that's really my favorite part of this movie, and you should really pay attention to that. Another thing that I would recommend you looking out for is somewhere in the movie, Lucille Ball, a very young Lucille Ball, makes a special appearance as a platinum blonde. So definitely keep your eye out for an early Lucy. And I think that...
Just a couple of comments. You can kind of stay beside me here.
Gotta stay
let's say 6 feet away.
6 feet apart.
Okay. Irving Berlin wrote all the songs for the movie. There were 5 of them. All 5 of them made it to the top of the, I guess, the hit parade lists in 1935. So they were all winners. It was also the beginning of a long relationship between Fred Astaire and Irving Berlin.
They met on the set of this movie, and after that they became very close friends. And I think after this, Irving Berlin may have written some songs specifically because he wanted Fred Astaire to sing them.
Great. The movie had a budget of $609,000 and it made $3.2 million. It was the RKO's biggest hit of the 1930s. Received 4 nominations for Oscars, didn't win any of them.
Including Best Picture.
Yes. We think it was a great picture. I'm really sorry, we're very sorry that we can't enjoy watching it with you.
But at least you can hopefully watch it at home and share with us how much you enjoyed it. And we hope you didn't object too much to our attempts at filming our movie night intro.
Thank you. Wash your hands frequently. Be well.